The morning Sarah Mitchell found the envelope on her desk. She had exactly $17 in her checking account, a stack of medical bills that made her hands shake, and a daughter who still believed her mother could fix anything. The envelope was cream-colored, expensive-looking, completely out of place among the coffee-stained papers and broken staplers of Lincoln Elementary's teacher's lounge. Inside was a check for $50,000 made out to her, with 2 words written in the memo line, "Title her." Sarah's fingers went numb. She sat down hard in the plastic chair, the kind that had been there since the school opened in 1987, and read the amount again and again. $50,000. It wasn't a mistake. The signature was illegible, looped and confident from someone who signed. Their name so often they'd reduced it to 3 efficient swoops of ink. There was no return address, no note, no explanation beyond those cryptic words. She thought about her daughter, Emma, who was 8 years old and needed surgery. Not the life-or-death kind that got you on television or inspired fundraisers, but the kind that insurance classified as elective because her daughter could technically survive without it. Never mind that Emma's scoliosis was getting worse, that she'd stopped playing soccer, that Sarah had caught her crying in the bathroom, trying to stand straighter in the mirror. Sarah had been teaching 3rd grade for 12 years. She knew every student's name, their favorite colors, which ones packed lunch, and which ones relied on the free meal program. She knew that teaching wasn't about the money, never had been. But knowing that didn't help when your daughter needed something you couldn't provide, when you worked 2 jobs and still had to choose between physical therapy and keeping the heat on. The check sat in her purse for 3 days. She didn't tell anyone, not her sister, not her best friend Marcus, who taught 5th grade down the hall. She just carried it around like a secret, like a bomb, like a prayer someone had finally answered. On the 4th day, she took Emma to her orthopedist appointment, the one where they'd discuss options and timelines, which were clinical words for how much longer can we wait before this gets worse. Dr. Patel was kind, the way medical professionals learn to be when they have to, deliver bad news regularly. "We could schedule the surgery for next summer," she said, her dark eyes sympathetic. "I know the cost is a barrier. There are payment plans, charity programs we could look into." Sarah wanted to pull out the check right then, to cry with relief, to schedule everything immediately, but something stopped her. That night after Emma was asleep, Sarah sat at her kitchen table with a cup of tea she forgot to drink and thought about those 2 words, "Title her." Not for you or for Emma or for medical. Expenses, title her, as if whoever sent this wanted Sarah to give Emma something more than surgery, more than fixed bones. A title, a name for herself, an identity beyond sick kid or girl with the curved spine. Sarah opened her laptop and started researching. By 2 a.m., she'd found it, a summer program for young athletes recovering from surgery, where kids learned adaptive sports, where they trained with Paralympians and adaptive coaches, where they stopped being medical cases and became competitors. The program cost exactly $15,000 for the full 8-week session. The next morning, Sarah went to the bank. She didn't cash the whole check. She opened a savings account for Emma's surgery, depositing $35,000. The remaining $15,000 she put toward the summer program, contingent on Emma getting her surgery first. The bank teller, a woman named Gloria, who Sarah had been making small talk with for 6 years, smiled at the deposits. "Tax refund?" Gloria asked cheerfully. "Something like that," Sarah said. "Actually, Gloria, I wanted to ask you something. You have that son, right? The one who wanted to go to culinary school?" Gloria's smile faltered. "Yeah, Miguel. He's working at the grocery store now. Saving up, he says, but..." She shrugged. The universal gesture of parents everywhere, who watch their children's dreams become negotiable. Sarah thought about the check, about anonymous kindness, about how someone had given her not just money, but a mandate. Title her. Give Emma an identity beyond her diagnosis. She thought about what titles Miguel might need. Over the next week, Sarah became a detective. She asked questions, casual and careful. Marcus mentioned his mother needed a new wheelchair, the electric kind that would let her leave the house without exhausting herself. The school secretary, Anne, let slip that her granddaughter had gotten into college but couldn't afford to go. The night janitor, Mr. Chen, had a daughter who wanted to start a business but couldn't get a loan. Sarah began writing checks. Not big ones, not the kind that solved everything, but enough to crack open a door that had been closed. $5,000 to Marcus's mom for the wheelchair. $3,000 to Anne's granddaughter for textbooks and fees. $2,000 to Mr. Chen's daughter as seed money. Each check she wrote had the same memo. Title her or title him, depending. She didn't tell anyone they came from her. She left them the way hers had appeared, anonymously, impossibly. She watched as Marcus's mother showed up at school events for the first time in 2 years. Fully mobile, beaming. She saw Anne's granddaughter's acceptance photos on Facebook. The girl holding her college ID like a golden ticket. She heard Mr. Chen whistling while he worked, a sound she'd never heard from him before. Emma's surgery was scheduled for March. Sarah had been saving the news, wanting to tell her daughter she could not only get the procedure but also attend the summer program afterward. The night before she planned to tell her, Emma came home from school with a project. "We're supposed to write about someone who changed our life," Emma explained, spreading markers across the kitchen table. "I'm writing about Ms. Rodriguez." Ms. Rodriguez was the PE teacher, young and energetic, who'd modified all her lesson plans after Emma's diagnosis, so Emma could still participate. Sarah felt a rush of gratitude for teachers like that, for people who saw children as whole beings rather than limitations. "She sounds wonderful," Sarah said. "She is, but Mom?" Emma looked up, her eyes serious in the way that only 8-year-olds could manage, still innocent enough to believe in honesty. "I wanted to write about you." Sarah's throat tightened. "Yeah? You work so hard. And you never complain. And I know—" Emma's voice dropped. "I know the surgery costs a lot. I know that's why we haven't scheduled it. But you never make me feel bad about it. You never make me feel like I'm too expensive." Sarah pulled her daughter into her lap, careful of her spine, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo. "You could never be too expensive, baby, never." That night after Emma was asleep, Sarah received an email from an address she didn't recognize. The subject line read, "Titles." She almost deleted it, assuming it was spam. But something made her open it. The message was brief. "I've been watching what you've done with the gift. You understood the assignment better than I could have hoped. The point was never the money. The point was showing you that kindness multiplies, that generosity isn't a finite resource. You've titled more people than I ever did. Keep going. The world needs more people who understand what you understand." There was an attachment. A transfer confirmation for another $50,000. Sarah stared at the screen. Then she started to cry. The kind of crying that comes from somewhere deep and usually stays locked away. The kind that only happens when you realize you're not alone in the way you thought you were. She thought about all the people at Lincoln Elementary, the art teacher who bought supplies out of pocket, the librarian who ran a secret pantry for families who needed food, the coach who drove kids home when their parents worked late. She thought about how many people were one unexpected, kindness away from being able to breathe. The next morning, Sarah called a staff meeting. She stood in front of her colleagues, the people who showed up every day to do impossible work for inadequate pay because they believed in something bigger than themselves, and she told them about the checks. Not about hers, not about the money she still had left, but about the ones she'd written, about Marcus's mom and Anne's granddaughter and Mr. Chen's daughter. "Someone gave me a gift," she said, "and they asked me to title people, to give them an identity beyond their struggle. I've been thinking about who needs titles here. Who needs to be seen as more than just their hardship." Anne raised her hand. "I've got some savings. Not much, but maybe we could pool resources. Create a fund?" Marcus nodded. "I'm in. My mom's always saying she wishes she could pay it forward." Within an hour, they'd outlined a plan. The Lincoln Elementary Community Fund, they called it. Small grants for people in need, given anonymously, always with the memo, title. Her, or title him, Sarah, would contribute what remained of her mysterious windfall as seed money, but everyone would chip in what they could, even if it was just $5 a month. Emma's surgery happened in April. The procedure went perfectly. By May, she was walking without pain for the first time in a year. By June, she was enrolled in the summer program, nervous and excited, wearing a shirt that said athlete across the front. On the last day of school, Sarah found another envelope on her desk. Inside was a newspaper clipping from 1987, yellowed and fragile. The headline read, Local teacher establishes scholarship. Fund after anonymous donation. The accompanying photo showed a young woman standing in front of Lincoln Elementary, holding an oversized check. Sarah looked closer at the woman's face, then at the signature on the original check she'd received, the one she'd kept in her wallet. They matched. The woman in the photo was Mrs. Henderson, who'd retired from Lincoln Elementary 15 years ago, who'd taught Sarah when Sarah was in 3rd grade, who'd once told her class that the best gift you could give someone was the chance to become who they were meant to be. Sarah thought about cycles, about kindness that echoed across decades, about teachers who never really stopped teaching. She thought about titles and identities, about how we name each other into existence through our belief and our generosity. That afternoon, as Emma ran across the parking lot toward the car, moving freely for the first time in months, Sarah made a decision. Whatever money came next, whatever mysterious windfalls or hard-earned savings she accumulated, she would keep titling people. Not because someone asked her to, but because she'd learned what Mrs. Henderson had tried to teach her 30 years ago, that we are all capable of seeing each other, really seeing each other, and calling forth something beautiful. Emma climbed into the car, chattering about her last day of 3rd grade, about the summer program, about maybe trying track in the fall. Sarah watched her daughter's animated face and thought about all the titles. Emma would claim for herself now, athlete, competitor, survivor, thriver. But the title that mattered most, the one that would carry her through everything, was the one Sarah had given her from birth, the one that no surgery or program could provide, the one that was hers simply because she existed. Beloved. That was the real gift, Sarah realized. Not the money, not even the surgery or the program. The gift was remembering that every person already has a title, already possesses an inherent worth that no circumstance can diminish. Sometimes they just needed someone to help them see it, to give them the resources or the opportunity or the simple recognition to claim it for themselves. Sarah started the car and headed home, already thinking about who needed titling next, already planning how to multiply this strange and wonderful kindness. In her rearview mirror, Lincoln Elementary grew smaller, but she knew she'd be back in August, ready to teach another year of 3rd graders their names, their worth, their titles. And somewhere, she hoped, Mrs. Henderson was smiling.